All right. Hello and welcome everyone to another unfiltered, most likely, I'll likely do zero editing on this, of the
Brilliant.
Discord in the Ranks podcast for the Middle Earth SPG Discord. As always, I'm your host, number one, Commi, and I've got the King with me.
Hello.
And we have two very special guests, if they would love to introduce themselves.
Yeah, I guess I'll start. So my name is Richard, part of the Into the West podcast. On the Discord, I'm known as Dairyman, and yeah, I'm happy to join because I guess I did okay at this year's Adepticon.
And our other guest.
We're just fine, I guess. And I am Julian. I am a Michigan player, one of the main TOs for the popping off state of Michigan, honestly, with our second year into a league. And yeah, also very first time ever being on a podcast, and I never really listened to them. So exciting. I'm pumped to be here.
Heck yeah. Glad to, I guess, introduce you to the realm of podcasts where a bunch of people decide that they have the authority to put microphones in front of their face.
Hell yes. Everybody wants to listen to everything we have to say.
Right?
Hey,
Oh,
it
right.
worked.
But takes
You
that I can say.
you do it enough, and then people actually listen. So
And
Damn
this is definitely
straight.
not an oversaturated market in the Middle Earth community, for sure. There's definitely not like 20 podcasts that releasing episodes per week.
I don't know why you would ever even think so, Commi.
So we have our two fabulous guests here because Adepticon just recently happened this past weekend in Milwaukee, Illinois, right? Hold on, did I geography correctly?
I don't think you did geography correctly.
No,
And I'm
it's
not
Is it
even
not
American.
it might
Yeah.
be Wisconsin, right?
Wisconsin. Yep.
All right, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Adepticon usually is in Chicago, Illinois, but moved due to space needs. So that's what's throwing me off there. But we recently had what was it? How many players? It was like a ludicrous number. 128 players?
Oh, for the Adepticon this year, I think it was 128 spots, but I think 83 or so signed up.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, 79 players at Adepticon. Looking at this now and now understanding what Longshanks is saying. Which is an impressive number for a North American event. I mean, Adepticon usually pulls in big numbers. Clash of the Coast pulls in big numbers. Nova pulls in big numbers. But still awesome that Middle Earth strategy battle game is getting, pushing the 100-player count at more than once a year. That's pretty awesome to see. And our two guests here placed first and third in the event, and so they're part of the Discord here. We wanted to bring them on to kind of chat about Adepticon, chat about the North American scene, and kind of just talk about Middle Earth, competitive play in general. Usually, King and I are chin wagging
We're
about
casuals.
just
Yeah.
either talking about events that we're running, or talking about events that we went to, or just things that we're excited about. And so, having a chance to kind of pick the brains of some of the brains of the North American scene, as it were, is a fun little opportunity for us. So, firstly, I guess we'll start. I mean, how did each of you? So we'll start with you, Richard. How did you get into Middle Earth strategy battle game, like briefly, and then what got you into the competitive sort of aspect of it?
Yeah, so I mean, like most people, I got into it in the early 2000s when the movies came out. But back then, it was just my brother and I playing. And then, yeah, took a very long break and didn't really get into the tournament scene until the beginning of the last edition, which was it 2019. Yeah, but then ever since then, I've been kind of sucked in and going to as many tournaments as I can. Which includes like flying across the continent, which I did for Adepticon. And just, yeah, it's my favorite part of the game, just playing competitively.
What are you, Julian?
So, kind of similar to you, Richard, actually. But for me, I was living in Italy actually as a kid, so I got to reap the benefit of those real nice, cheap magazines that they had with those models. The D'Agostino one sucked me in. Really liked it, but then I was a big Warhammer kid. Took a long break from it, and really had stopped playing Lord of the Rings entirely until a chance encounter like 4 years ago at a Guitar Center with someone that I used to play with. I was buying wire for some 40K models, guitar wire things. Started
Yeah.
chatting, and I said, YOLO, let's just go to Adepticon and play and see what it's like. Met someone that was kind of local to where I'm at, and he said he was running tournaments every month, and I said, whoa, really? That's a thing? Okay. I gave it a shot myself, and then it just kind of exploded in Michigan here. And for me, I definitely am a competitive player, but I am also very much about the fun and the enjoyment of the game. I really always, both of those matter to me, but I never want to be really fully competitively focused. And yeah, it's been a blast. My favorite game. I play it all the time, as much as I can. I don't travel as much as you, Rich, but I do try to. I want to. It's kind of been a beginning of my and with some of my friends, just bopping around like to Canada too.
Yeah, I think I'm a bit forced to. I mean, we've grown our. So I'm from the West Coast, and we have a great scene now. But when I first started, we were very, very like local tournament style, like 15 to 20 players are our biggest tournaments. So I think we kind of had to travel to the big events like Adepticon and Nova if we wanted to, just test our mettle. But yeah, now we have Clash on the Coast and it's thriving. But yeah, I would love to actually go to your event in Michigan one day as well.
I'm trying to push it, right? I'm trying because Michigan has their own convention every year, and I've been pushing the Michigan GT out, and we're trying to make that a big guy, big one on this side. So it'll be cool to see you one day.
Awesome. So, Adepticon, right? It's the one of the pillar sort of tournaments that occurs in North America, and there's been 4 months that this edition's been out, and you decided at some point that you were going to go to Adepticon to compete. What was sort of like the thought process going into deciding to go to Adepticon? Was it merely like, this is my first chance like to kind of go out there and try things out, or was there like you were talking about earlier about getting into the sort of like the competitive scene, like was this really like the cut in the teeth moment for you?
So
Julian, go ahead.
yeah, so for me, Adepticon's a tradition. I've gone at this point the last like 3, 4 years, maybe 5, I don't know. Kind of gone back to back, and I've been doing the Lord of the Ring events kind of for all those years. Really like it, have fun. This was definitely a pivotal one in terms of did I want to really try to go and be very competitive? What did I want to do? And I wasn't really sure. It really took me a very long time to decide how I wanted to handle it. I do not really pay attention much to what are the like meta lists or what we think is really good or not. It's to me really much more about what feels right to play. I really hemmed and hawed between 2 lists and ultimately went down to the one that felt right with my gut, which was the Eagles. And well, obviously it worked, but otherwise, yeah, that was kind of my plan with it. A few years ago, I brought Survivors of Lake Town with the full goal of just trying to fully win and really was set on it. But I had a terrible time with it, and I did a terrible. I played horrendously, and I think I dropped because I just was not messing with the list. So I was cautious about the competitive side more, and really decided to focus on the gut. And yeah, it was a blast.
Fair, man. Fair. Like coming in with Eagles and just saying that gels with you. What I've really liked about this new edition is how much better monsters are. And even here in the UK, Eagles are popping up a lot more. They're not winning as many events over here, as far as I'm aware. That being in the GBHL, the Great British Hobbit League. But yeah, no, going and seeing like monsters from last edition to this edition. Having a monster only list win Adepticon, like such a huge event, an international event. I say international, but it's mostly Yanks that end up going. But yeah, no, it's something I can really appreciate about the change of edition and how much competitive play is changing as well. Just because how much more viable monsters are now. Not just monsters, like other lists as well. I'm seeing a lot more Hero Hammer abound as well, which is really, really cool. What about yourself, Richard, when it came to Adepticon? Like, was it the opportunities there? You going straight for it, or have you been going to a couple of them?
Yeah, so last year was actually my first Adepticon, and I ended up second. So of course this year I felt the obligation to try again, to one up that. But ended up third, which I'm still happy with. I think same thing with Julian. Like as much as I say I'm a competitive player, like I also think it's very important to play what you like playing. I'm never gonna play the top list just because like I never bought like let's say the Dragon Emperor, and if I going into this edition or like currently, I personally think the White Hand is the best army right now. So I could have gone that route, but it's just not something that vibed with me. So like last year I took Azog's Legion and Azog's Hunter at 750 points, and that definitely wasn't like a top tier competitive, at the time. So this year I was like, okay, I obviously want to play something that will perform, but it doesn't necessarily have to be like the best of the best. So I ended up with Battle of the Five Armies because I've played like similar armies in the last edition. So I had some carryover experience.
That's brilliant. I saw that you listed included Nori, who's like my second favorite dwarf out of Thorin's company. So you got mad respect from me for that.
He's great now with the D9. I don't know why he got that buff, but I'm like, interesting.
He lost Lord of the West, but gained D9. I'm not seeing a downside here.
He's like an interesting hero if you're doing like a bunch of just fortitude heroes and then just make him your leader. Like, there's some
go
weird
on, crack
potential
me.
for it.
I dare you.
Yeah, he's like Baby Durin.
Yeah.
Like it's wild. So it's interesting. So you mentioned right that you chose Battle 5 armies because it has a similar play style to what you're used to, and then you chose Eagles because it's something that really meshes with your style. And so in this world that we live in with the internet, where like folks are constantly belaboring the point like what the meta is one way or the other, and the sort of prevalence that Eagles has had in conversation and the lack of prevalence that Battle 5 Armies has had in conversation, at least that I've witnessed here in the Discord and on the Facebook groups. When you were going through each of the rounds, was there any sort of noticeable reaction or initial impression that you received from your opponents in each round, like how they reacted to your army or anything like that?
A good one. Not really for me. There was a few opponents that, I mean, before every game, I just said, "Do you know how these guys work? Do you know how Piercing Cry works?" Right? That's the big boogeyman there. And
Yeah.
most of my opponents knew. A few of them didn't, so just kind of explaining or just going over some of the, specifics of it. But otherwise, no real scoffing or ugh or anything like that. It was just kind of a lot of normal games on my side. I did not feel at all like I was the boogeyman myself. But also, many of my games I was sweating looking at the Dale and Balrog players around me, terrified of them. So I was really focused on that. When am I going to get the Wind Lances? When are the Balrogs going to pull me in? We're going to have some KFC chickens up in this, so
Jesus.
What about you, Richard?
Yeah. Well, before I go into mine, I just want to comment on Julian's because I don't know if you guys been on like the Facebook forums and stuff, but especially the GBHL, there's a lot of complaints about the Eagles right now.
There
And
is.
I personally think like props to Julian. I don't want like people to take away from his win because at 700 points, personally, I don't think they're busted or like too good. I do agree, probably like 500 and under, it is like crazy good and near unbeatable if you play it well, and you get the right matchups. But 700, I think they're totally fair, and they have their fair share of bad matchups. So I don't want people to just like look at this win and be like, oh yeah, Julian won because of Eagles.
well, I
Yeah,
appreciate you saying that.
I don't think the game's in a position where you can say that. It's very much like last edition. Skill matters a lot more. Sure, there are scenarios that favor you and scenarios that don't favor your army list. And then there's always the age-old, oh no, I was just unlucky. And then someone will go, here's my science that proves luck doesn't exist and it's all probability. And you just go, well, shut up. But yeah, yeah. What was I saying? The point's completely gone from my head.
Well, while you're looking for that thought deep in Moria, I think it's it's a great reminder that you raised, King. Like the whole skill before the list is the adage of Middle Earth strategy battle games. So we tell all the new players when they join the Discord or join the local game store, it's this game isn't about meta chasing. It's about you find the list you're comfortable with, and when you get good at it, you beat other people, and it really shows. I mean, if we look, anecdotal evidence from my regional scene, right? It's not exactly, and I'm speaking like New England wide, it's not really representative of the global meta of what lists people think are really good, because the Iverson family walks in with any list that they want, and they'll just stomp face because they're just comfortable with the game and they know the pacing and they know when to make the certain decisions and how to execute it. That uh Matt Iverson can be playing Bilbo's birthday bash army and do quite well with it just through that comfort. Um, and I like that still exists. Obviously, in this edition of these quote unquote definitely not legendary legions, there are some lists that are definitely better than others as like a general skill ramp, right? Maybe it's not as hard to learn a list, but I like that there's still a decently high skill ceiling no matter what list you play.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I think it's still it's more so like if you want to go to like a big competitive event and you want to like have a chance at the podium, there are probably, I don't know, maybe like a
More
quarter or a
reliable
fifth.
lists.
Yeah. There is a certain set of lists that like you need to take, but yeah, you still have variety there. And again, if your goal is just to do decently well, maybe go like 500 or more wins than losses, then yeah, suddenly like most of the lists are viable. So it really depends on what your goal is. I think to your original question, luckily my list didn't really have any army bonuses, and I kind of was just straight up with that. I was like, you don't have to deal with anything sneaky. It's reroll ones when different races are in the same combat, and everyone's like, oh yeah, so it doesn't do anything. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. So
Was
It's
anyone
funny
surprised that you brought like Battle 5 armies, like once you were hitting like the top tables or you're playing against maybe people that you've played against before for contention for podium spots? Was there like, even in the chin wagging after the game or at the going out to eat afterwards, was there any like commentary about Battle of 5 armies that you were hearing?
surprisingly, no. which it is surprising because I personally think it's pretty solid. But yeah, if you're constantly on the forums and stuff, it's just not one of the armies that's like really prevalent or being talked about much right now for some reason. I mean, it's maybe not so exciting for a lot of people because of the no army bonus, but it just has efficient models, right? The warriors are good, Gwahir obviously good, Legolas is good. So, you just have good pieces, but maybe it's not exciting to some folks.
I
Yeah,
agree
that's
with
fair.
you about that too, because I mean, I definitely think it's all about the gut, what feels good, and what you play at. But Battle of Five Armies looks amazing to me, and what I think a lot of people get really focused on is the Army Legion bonuses themselves, and forget that in many ways it's about some of the bonuses are just what you can bring together to make up your actual army itself. That's a bonus within. And I agree. Battle of Five Armies looks great with being able to be. I mean, you have so much diversity and so many abilities to combo troops together across the board. But yeah, the bonus might be lackluster, but that huge page of all the million options you can have, it's a pretty banger list there. You can do all sorts of stuff on that.
It's like the roster itself is the bonus, isn't it? As same with Palinor Fields. Don't get me wrong, Palinor Fields does have like a decent enough army bonus with every hero getting one free hero combat, but still, you're not building a list around that usually. It's more look at all these other tools I can bring because this is the big good soup list, and then Battle of Five Armies is the big good soup list, for lack of a better term. And yeah, no, having access to all those tools and not really focusing on, oh yeah, my army can do this, can do that, can do this. I think that, especially if you're a player who doesn't want to be remembering a lot of rules, like you just went through it yourself, Richard. Like you tell people, I don't really have a lot. I've got something that's not going to pop up a lot. However, you're just gonna have to know how to deal with my heroes and how to deal with my warriors, as if they never had any bonuses anyway.
Yeah, exactly.
Funny that you mentioned this too, because so Richard, the other army that I was heavily debating, and you guys are all gonna think I'm nuts, but it's true, was Army of the White Hand, but without Saruman, because I personally hate big heroes. If you play Army of the White Hand without Saruman, you get literally zero benefits from the Legion at all. But for me, it was all about the roster, because the ability to take banners without having that 70-point Thorn tax if I was playing the other Wildman armies, Crebain, which are nuts, the cheap heroes. I'm typically like a captain leader person, so my captains do nothing, but I don't give up leader points. That was
Yeah,
really enticing to me. I was so close to taking it, but I didn't.
you went from a 70 plus model count to 7.
But however, that white hand list that I played had like 14 Crebain in it. So either way, it's bird. I'm all about the
Yeah,
birds. That's what we got.
14 Crebain.
14. Yep.
Jesus.
Yeah, I've just always said, even in the last edition, like anything with fly is just busted as hell. Like I think it's people know it's good, but I still think it's underrated.
I 100% agree. So
Yeah.
the person that got, I think they're sixth. If you see Arden Mitchell there, he's one of my locals, and he's good. And we constantly battle in terms of how we want to handle this white hand list. I was like 14 Crebain, no Saruman, and he said, all right, Saruman and 2 Crebain, and then we I don't know, we kind of just came to a compromise of this 10 Crebain Saruman list. And we were both going to play that ultimately, or thinking about it, and then I was like, I can't do it. I can't do Saruman. But yeah,
He
it's
took 10 Crebain. Oh my god, he took
he
10.
did. He did because he saw me 14, and I gushed about them all the time. It's all about the birds, little or big. So yeah, and I agree,
Saruman
Richard. The
Green.
flying is the thing. Flying is just, it gives you so many options. It gives you so many tools, and you know what to do with those tools. The ceiling is so much higher on any army you can play. That's
Could
why
I
it hits
also
well with
tar pits
Eagles.
as well? With the multiple wounds, they could just
Yep.
proper slow things down. My God, what a wombo combo over list.
I played
Yeah,
them last.
they can't be trapped either now, so they don't go
Yeah.
down easy.
They're busted.
Oh,
Not being able to be knocked down or trapped because you just fly them over your opponent's lines and you say, "Here you go, 40 millimeter base," and you can't deal with it in one turn easily. And my argument against the Saruman piece was, why do I need to transfix your hero when I can just stick a bird on him? Because pretty much every hero in the game cannot kill a single unwounded Crebain in one turn. That's huge.
damn.
That's pretty interesting. I'm or presently, because I played Dale last edition, and I've been discouraged from playing Dale this edition, with all the discourse around them. So I've been playing a lot of Usurpers of Edoras. And something that I've kind of been missing is having a lot of like just a couple fast moving pieces. And so maybe Army of the White Hand without the lightning bolts is the way to go to kind of scratch that itch of a bunch of wildmen, but something fast to go with them.
Well, you can do that with usurpers as well. I personally am just a psycho because I don't like rolling pair text, and the Oathmaker is the key to me. I love the guy. I want to play the white hand list, but I think usurpers is probably the better pick if you're gonna do the wildman spam, just because they have like what the +1 to wound heroes. That's huge, and then the 6+ feel no pain. That's pretty good too.
It's
For
been
a
it's been
dude that
pretty
was
awesome
in the
in
extended.
events.
Go on.
It's been pretty awesome in events. I actually forgot that they can't take Crebain. I just associate Crebain with Saruman, and I didn't see Crebain like at all in the animated movie, so it keeps slipping out of my mind that you can actually take him.
They're in
in the
one scene, right?
trees.
Yeah.
Damn, okay, they were just in the net.
There's
Oh,
one
okay.
scene where Hera literally looks into the sky and says the famous words Legolas said before her, but after her, timeline wise, Crebain from Dunland.
Oh, okay.
Member berries.
There are a few moments.
What I was gonna say is, you said like the Oathmaker's all for you. For a guy who's only in 12 seconds of the extended edition, that's some commitment, man. And I can feel that commitment because that's how committed I am to Theodred.
Yeah, I respect you, Julian, but I cannot sign off on the no Saruman or Grima white hand take.
Listen,
That's too far.
I understand, right? I get it. But next year, I might be bringing that guy.
Do it. Oathmaker as a general. Let's see it.
No, he's not the general. It's a chieftain. They're all the same tier, right? So you can just sit in the back and yell words of encouragement, but not die.
You got
Make him look
this,
extra
guy.
important. Give him a golden machete instead of a silver one. Right, this is my general. He's got the bougie machete.
It's the golden desert eagle of the hill tribes. It's just a gold-plated machete. So the experience of like doing Adepticon and going through and placing first and third and being up there on the podiums, has it like shaped your perspective and the way that you kind of look at Middle Earth SPG afterwards? Because we've had like a week basically to digest the victories that you've had. Has there been any sort of influence in your like have you found it to kind of creep up and influence the way that you've been kind of approaching Middle Earth this past week, or has it been kind of just like, oh, it's just just another Tuesday?
Well, for me, no real big difference, just beyond every once in a while being like, damn, it's cool that picking something via, the gut option here worked out. So that was very, validating for that. But otherwise, no, not really much has changed, right? It's just kind of another day, we're playing whatever it is, looking forward to the match play guide, wanting
Yeah.
that guy
Yeah.
any day.
What about
Yeah.
you, Rich? You've got the whole podcast that you got to rep, right? So like, there's like real street cred on the line with Into the West. Like, has that this experience sort of shaped the way that you're talking about the game or viewing the game, that sort of thing?
Well, not particularly like the results. Obviously, like I always want to play well. But that's more for myself, not really for the podcast. Um, I would say that the game kind of plays surprisingly different. I know I've been in talks for a long time with a lot of like the North American competitive players. And it seems like there's some, obviously, like Adepticon being like the first big event, not a lot of people have had that experience yet. And some of the, super competitive players on the East Coast didn't make this tournament this year. So I feel like when they're kind of talking about it, a lot of them have messaged me and asked me like, what the meta is like, or how do I feel playing this army or playing against this army. So I think it's just very new all around, and the meta just feels different. Like a few things off the top of my head is things are dying very quickly, a lot quicker than before. A lot of spears not having shields is actually a big deal in practice. Like obviously on paper you can be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense, but when you're actually in game, you feel it. And also the list building, yes, also a little bit probably I guess as a downside, a little bit more samey. Like I played 2 Balrogs in my run. There were 7 out of the 80, and pretty much all of them had the exact same build. I think it was 50 models, all the same, like Captain and Goblins. The only difference being like war gear. So I guess stuff like that. So if you haven't been to like a big event in this edition yet, you don't really have that experience. I don't know.
Right
That
on.
was a bit of a rant. I don't know if I
No, I
made any
agree
sense
with
there.
everything you said though too. I mean, it's everything with Lord of the Rings is always about the little things. I think it's never these like huge overarching things. It's things exactly like you said. Your spears can't get shields. That's a huge thing. It changes so much where you can just carve through armies faster. And you're right that the lists are. I think there's a little bit of blandness across the board right now, but I was super jazzed the fact that this third book will be adding choices to existing legions as well. It really feels like, in many ways, we're in this big waiting game too, to kind of see what really comes out with all these
Yeah.
possible changes and everything.
Yeah. The third book, I think a lot of people are saying it's going to actually complete the game, because there's a lot of people saying the game feels unfinished. I've got an army that I've been able to play with since Big Blue, and now I can't play with it because of this edition, and I've got to wait for the third book to play my Kingdom of Khazad-dûm and the likes. So yeah.
Is Big Blue that rule book? Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, I
it's-
love
it's-
it.
Rule 'em all.
That's good.
But yeah, having a look
sorry.
at like what actually went to Adepticon, like I can already see like what you mean by bland, or at least there's a few lists that were quite common. Like as you said, you've got Balrogs. 7 players that went to Adepticon had Balrogs, and you've got 5 players who did Last Alliance. Now I haven't checked them all, but I've got a feeling all 5 of those lists contain a sealed Door of the Ring. I might be wrong. I'm not going to go check the lists, but I could like that's the strongest piece of that list, in my opinion. And I think if you just looked at things on paper as well, you going, yeah, it is someone on horseback, and at any point he can get off that horse, put on a ring. Next thing you know, you've got this fight 7 beast at strength 5 running at you, and you can't see him. Surrounded by the world of steel and some fight 5 strength 4 numbs to back them up. And after that, you've got the Battle of Fornost. Yeah, I can see a lot of people who are going like, "Oh yeah, I only got to play Battle of Fornost for 3 months last edition." So I'm coming to a big event and I'm taking it. And, you know, it's your one way of playing Glorfindel, who is a much beloved character. And again, that's quite a samey list. It's always Glorfindel, Aener, because you have to. And then it's like, do you go Gondorian heavy, or do you go Elf heavy, or do you try and find the split? Like, or as some people do. I've seen some people do all cav, where it's just Aener, as much cavalry as he can, maybe a couple of extra banners, and just Glorfindel. And like, that's an insanely funny list. But I mean, it's one way to try and make it unique, I guess.
I think it's interesting you have to take Arrener, right? Or in White Hand, you're taking Saruman and
But you don't have to.
yeah, you don't have to, right? But like you're taking Saruman or in, this list you have to take Elisar, on that list you have to take, Aomer or whatever, right? Like a lot of these lists are forcing you to take the big hero, right? And to go to Richard's point about or both of your points about the games ending quicker because things are dying faster. Is one, yeah, the lack of shield, so people are dying twice as often. But also because there's now just big toys being thrown into every list, or not every list, right? But like so many lists are featuring like a big toy, in one form or the other. Whether it's a wind lance turning all your guys into blenders, or it's because you have a Lendil and he's heroic combating everywhere. You have Elisar, you've got Gwai here, or you have Legolas who can kill upwards of 7 models a turn, if he's rolling only 6s, that sort of thing. And it feels like this skirmish game where you could choose to take the big toys, right? Now that you have to take them, those guys are blendering, right? Like, they're like Aomer getting free heroic combats and Riders of Aomer, and so many guys getting free heroic combats now and lists like Lurtz. Models are
Lots
dying
of
so quickly.
Lots of reroll ones as well, isn't there?
Yeah.
It feels like that's at least to me, it feels like there's a few lists where it's kind of like, oh, I don't know what bonus to give them. I know, just let them reroll ones.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that's
Yeah.
contributing to the death rate of miniatures on the table. It's wild.
That cuts your numbers too, right?
That's for the good or better, or good or worse. Sorry, go for it.
You're spending 200 points on a big hero. That's cutting into the models that you have as well. So games are I found them to be a little faster too, just because you can't hoard out as easily with some of those armies.
Yeah, and then at the same time too, right? There's this dichotomy of games are ending quickly because there's a lot of lists that are murdering stuff really quickly because they have like a big hero, what have you. But then we're seeing that like there's a lot of discourse over high model count horde lists being really dominant right now because we don't have the match play guide, and bodies is carrying the day in most all of the scenarios that we have, if not all of them. And so that's probably contributing a lot to the Army of the White Hand because they're able to hoard out and control, and they have the lightning bolt and stuff like that. That there's this high kill rate is being met with, all right, so let's just throw so many bodies in front of you that it's hard to kill them all.
We also have 6 scenarios right now that all of them, for the most part, heavily favor large model count too. Like, I traditionally play high model count armies. I think I've lost Lords of Battle almost every single time I've played it, with all of the wounds. But I don't have to deal with that right now, so plug the board.
So it's major buffs there. You used to playing your 80-man, 90-man Wildman Rabble, and it's just kind of like, well, now that only benefits me. Haha. 6 scenarios go burr. At least you know what you're playing when it comes to 6 scenarios as well. Like Adepticon was a 6-round event, right? So you knew you were playing every scenario. So it was kind of like, if I'm building a list to go and at least do well, I needed to be comfortable in taking on every scenario. And it's like, well, yeah, it's 6. I don't have to skew it anywhere. It's 6. I'm going to be playing one of each of them. say if it was a 1 day like free event one, you're only playing half of them, that can get skewed quite quickly. Next thing you know, you're just playing the free maneuver ones like hold ground, where you want to run straight into the middle, reconnoiter, where you're running past each other and destroy supplies, where you need to kill them, get past them, and destroy their supplies. Which would change how certain lists would perform and not perform. But with the 6 at the moment, yeah, just like bring a horde, you're probably fine. Bring a group of elite monsters, might have a little bit more work cut out for you, but you could still do it as you did, Julian.
Well, the dominant can be really helpful, and I fought as an example domination against Army of the White Hand, but I was able to. I lucked out on that one by being able to remove key pieces immediately, get rid of all the might. And at that point, without the might, that was something that favored me. And I do remember leaving that game being like, oh wow, I just kind of I can't believe I won what was probably my worst mission here. That's great. Like, whoa, what's going on?
So
On the event.
Oh, sorry, go for it.
On the other end, Richard, obviously you had not that many big heroes. Obviously, you had the one, the only Legolas. You took Why here, but you did have a lot of troops. Did you find like General Legolas dominant affecting, or do you feel like you had enough troops to get around stuff? Like, do you think you're in that sweet spot where you had enough hero power and troop count, where it was just like the usual blend of what we would see last edition, where you hit a comfortable amount of models and you're good to go, and you're not really leaning into how this edition favors hordes on a whole? Like, did you just feel comfortable with what you had?
Yeah. I mean, I honestly just build my army kind of like what my play style like is used to, which is like generally a bit more well-rounded to like a big tournament like this, because the worst feeling I can get is get placed in a matchup in a scenario where I feel like I have very little chance, because I do try to win all my games if possible. So yeah, I think my original build I had considered, instead of Nori and the Lake Town captain, I take Thorn instead, because he has the march as well. And he's a better leader, and technically my hero like quality is better, but I kind of maxed out at around 28 models, and to me that was a bit low. So yeah, I wasn't like one of the top model count armies, but I felt like I had enough to compete if I were to come up against the horde. So yeah, that's where I was at.
Fair, man. Fair. Respect it.
When you were speaking of like the different matchups that you might go up against, how did like the local scene where you play and the pool of players that you would have to practice with impact the sort of decision making and the sort of preparation process that you went through to go to Adepticon, if you even did any prep at all? Start with you, Richard.
Yeah, so I'm pretty proud of our local scene. I feel like we have a good group of like really strong players. So Ian came with me to Adepticon, my co-host, and we play quite a bit. And then Mitchell Hammond, who plays second. He's also a contender in our league as well. So he's a practice partner. And then what has actually really helped, I promise, Commi did not pay me to say this, but I've been playing in the TTS league, for practice, and it's not the exact same, but I do find it helpful to play against different players, different like play styles, and like you just see a lot more. So it's a quick way to like get a lot of matchups under your belt.
For me, I definitely prepped, but it's just kind of playing more the locals. For me, I don't think my locals are necessarily as strong, probably as yours, Richard. So really, for me, it's more what felt right. I've said it 100 times at this point, but really just Does it feel good, this mission, in terms of me maneuvering around? Can I accomplish the thing I want? What are the armies I'm scared of? I will do some kind of, you could say almost like half games against myself, just where I'll set up armies kind of across, 6 inches away from each other and play a few turns and just be like, how does it feel? How would I handle this scenario or this situation, etc. It's not a full game, but it's enough to give me kind of a picture of what would I expect or see with it, and that's also been helpful.
Man's on a bit of desk hammer. Just sits at his desk and goes, right, okay, we're like on turn 4. This is what's happened. How does this go for the next 2 turns? Oh, that's cool. And you just put them away, do something else. Yeah.
Especially because for me, I was mostly scared of these like Arnor. I think Arnor's amazing, or Dale. We don't have either of those armies in our kind of area. Just playing that and seeing, oh wow, look how that D6 spear line just slaughtered everything I have. Ooh, that was rough. So maybe I don't want to play this army. Then look how good the Eagles did against it. That was nice.
Yeah. That's fair. Obviously, as you were saying, Richard, when it comes to likes of TTS and that, and you get to play a lot of different people, I reckon that probably is a major helping point on either getting better at the game or just getting at least getting practice with an army you want to become familiar with. If you just keep playing and playing and playing and playing, something's going to stick. Things are going to start to connect. It's just going to start making sense to you, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. And I personally, so, I love what you're doing, Julian. I think I'm not big brained enough to play against myself like that. So I don't think I could learn anything. But I think like my, I guess, recommendation for players, if they want like big practice or practice for like the really big tournaments, is maybe play your army in like a small local tournament, because I always find there's a difference between just a very casual pickup like practice game compared to even bring it to like a small local, because you're under the timing pressure. Your opponent is trying to like score as many points as possible, so you're kind of putting yourself in the like a practice simulation.
That's
right.
fair.
Because also emotions come into play with that too, right? It's easy when you're just playing in your underwear in your basement, whatever. But if you're playing a real person, even if it like in a tournament, there's more things at stake, and you can make more mistakes, you can make errors, all these things, and that's just where practice can help alleviate that. As in real world practice, even in local tournaments, playing with other people.
That's a very real thing that exists in like the competitive scene. I pay attention to the StarCraft Brood War competitive scene that happens in Korea, and it's a big talking point. The being able to handle the pressure of being in the in front of everyone, right? And in a way, right, when you're at a tournament, the pressure's on because you're in front of quote unquote like everyone, right? You're playing at a match, you're competing against other players, they're kind of observing you, and there is sort of like an eyes on you sort of feeling when you're at a tournament, that there's now like this feeling of stakes that's introduced, that practice absolutely helps to stem off some of that feeling, because you're at least comfortable with your army and your list and play. That then you just have to contend with like the social aspect of it.
Yeah, no,
get comfortable around humans.
that's a hard thing for our hobby, King.
Nice.
But yeah, I mean, Julian can speak to this. It is a little bit different, like when it is like top table, like what Commi said, because some people aren't used to like, especially in the later rounds where maybe you'll get like 4 or 5, sometimes even up to 10 people just watching the game. Yeah, like they're not saying anything, but you are aware that every little move is being watched, right? So, and I even saw like some games being streamed, so that's like another level right there.
Yeah, that was the top table game at the end, the last one. Apparently, I think there's a malfunction or something with the stream, so it didn't actually stream. But I'm not used to being streamed, but this has also been my third game being streamed at being at Adepticon. So at this point, I was used to it, I guess. I was like, all right, this is how this works, okay. But I mean, it is nerve wracking. You're right. You just sit there and you're like, oh, all these people are judging me. They're gonna think I'm doing stupid things because obviously everyone who's watching you is a super genius, right? Everyone's an Iverson. So it's like, oh no, how do you handle it? But yeah, it's nerves played huge, and also I think that was what made it much easier for me was playing an army that I did feel so comfortable with because I didn't have to really second guess these things as much. It's just, all right, this is nerve wracking, but I know what these guys do in and out, so I don't have to worry about that. It's just what is my opponent doing? That's it.
That's fair. Being on the other side of it, where I've went and watched the top table. So when I'm going to events here, like the ones coming up soon, Scouring of Cheshire, like that's very much an all-comers event, but there are people who go to win still. But we're all there to have a laugh anyway. Usual British banter. But yeah, going up and watching the top table, and just seeing how a bit more antsy it is, or just how much more seriously the game is taken. And it's not a matter of like, as you say, you're like, what if these guys are judging me? You've got just that usual social anxiety that can just creep in, like no matter who you are. I've got a feeling that on the other end, if you're watching a top table, it's very much I've come here to learn, or I've come here to see something cool, or I've literally got nothing else to do. I know I'm just gonna go stand in that crowd of people who are all watching this one game, just to feel a bit of community, or just some form of primordial, some like ape brain, just socializing. Know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that's the nice part about tournaments and big events, where you can just go and see people and deal with people and be around people. And I 100% can see how playing games in person just gets you better at being around people, and being used to just being around people, because I know there's plenty of people out there who do struggle with that. Like, never mind going and seeing other people, just going outside in the first place. You know what I mean? Just some people just can't hack it, which is fair, and they struggle. But if you could get past that barrier, and then next thing you know, you're playing games in person, it's just you're just gonna. It's just everything about that confidence, isn't it? Like, as you said, Julian, you know your army, you know what you gotta do. You don't have to worry about anything else. You just have that innate confidence. You don't have like this shut-in anxiety. You don't have any of this. What's the term people throw around all the time? Imposter syndrome. Like, oh,
Yeah.
should I actually be up here? It's just like, nah, I know what I'm doing. I'm playing a game, and there's people watching. It doesn't bother me, because people watch games all the time, just like how you watch a sport, or if you watch this or you watch that. You're all there for the same reason. You're all there to play MESBG. You're playing games with other people before you go to an event. It's just part of the process. All you're doing is just playing 6 games in a row over 2 days, instead of once a week with your pals.
Yeah, and like, as just a follow-up question, like to speak towards that pressure and the social anxiety and all the eyes on you thing. Um, so uh are there any tactics that you use, like as a for your mental health or mental state of mind and your focus when you're playing these games, and the heat is on, right? You have all these eyes on you, or even when they're not looking, right? And you find yourself, like, do you ever find yourself feeling like you're starting to feel anxious, right? And and maybe a little frustrated, and you're starting to lose your focus, right? Because you're starting to tunnel vision on something that's going wrong, or what have you. Are there any strategies that you use to sort of factory reset yourself and get yourself back into the mojo?
Ooh. I think for this game, at least for me, it's most of the time because we're not on exactly a time limit, right? Because it is an infinite turn game until someone breaks to our 25%. And whenever I play, I can really just slow down for the most part and just think, okay, well, what do I think is going to happen? How is this going to go? And it just, the game itself lets me have those little moments of respite where I can go, whew, okay, let's let me think about this, or what do I think is going to come? Because it doesn't have any of those big gotchas, right? You can heroic combat, everyone can heroic combat. So I know that. I know at least what the extent of the tricks are of your army for the most part here. So really, I found that just I've been able, at least myself, to kind of keep a steady head. But there was a big moment for me, for example, going into my fourth game where I did fight Mitch Hammond, and I was like, oh crap, another Balrog, and this is how do I handle this? And I was getting really unnerved. But then as I was walking the table, I just said, like, you can do this. You know what you're doing. Just get it together and just meet it head on. Just go at the game and just give it your best. At the end of the day, it is a game. We're rolling chance cubes. You can't control everything that's going on, so just try to rise to the occasion, because if you don't, you would feel so bad about it instead. So for me, it's almost like the opposite of I'd rather not feel bad, so I'll just give it my all. And when I'm not really sure, I can just kind of pause because there's not this huge urgency with the game.
Just as an aside, I've just seen that round 4 as Recon Eagles versus Depths of Moria. Yeah, even I would just be like, oh, how on earth am I going to pull this off?
I had lots of plans, and then they all went south, and I was like, oh, well, how are we going to pull this out? So let's just adapt.
Nice. What about yourself, Richard? Like, do you have anything where you feel like you need to reset, or have you got anything that you do to reset if you ever find yourself tunnel visioning, or you've noticed that you're not doing your best to win? Like, as you say, you try your best to win. So
So I think this is just different for everyone. I personally do get quite anxious like before the matches, but I find that once you're given the scenario, you get to your table, you shake hands with your opponent to start the game, that's when like my nerves kind of go away. So I'm just that way, and I can like lock in a lot easier. But with that said, I personally have issues with sometimes tilting, like because I am calculating odds for a lot of things, and when the odds are like severely like just we're talking like constantly under 1%, things are not going my way, I do get a bit tilted. And I think and I'm still working on this, just trying to kind of recalibrate and just think of my odds of what are my, similar to like maybe like poker or something. Like you're thinking of your odds of what can I still do to win, and if that is like basically nil, then at a big tournament like this, like what can I do to mitigate my loss or get a draw or something, like just trying to make it as best as possible. Because I had a couple games in this tournament that were like that, and on day one, that was actually my hardest day.
What were your games day one?
Yeah, so that's the day I started out with 2 Return of the Kings and 2 Balrogs. So my second game, my second game was actually really, really hard. So to make a quick or the story quick is basically I first turn I set up a barge into the King of the Dead with Gwai here. He thought about it, didn't take the bait to strike up with the King's only might. So I barged in, killed King of the Dead, but I had to spend all my might. I thought it might be worth it, but then the next turn, like I lost like the move off, the strike off, basically everything. Aragorn did 3 wounds against Gwai. I failed all 3 fate, so like Gwai went down, and it was a moment where like and then like I was down like 10 models, and at that point I had only killed King of the Dead, and that was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to lose this. And then I had to kind of recalibrate and be like, just fight tooth and nail and be like, okay, how can I even make this like a minor loss? And because it was domination and it's still an objective scenario, like the last 2 turns, suddenly my elves like 2-handing were killing like the dead left and right. So, somehow I pulled out a win in that one, and there was actually quite a few people watching that game because it was on Top Table, and like Mitchell came up to me after and was like, "I'm pretty sure you had lost that game like halfway through," and it definitely felt like that. But yeah, I just had to pull it through.
Magic math rocks, throwing you sideways every time.
Yeah.
Oh,
What was so the two last games we're kind of like talking about like the two round 6 games that each of you played. This was the decider, obviously, that propelled you into your score placements. What was like the general feeling of how those games felt like, kind of just emotionally, right? How was the game with Jacob Perkins, Julian?
That was honestly a real interesting game for me because I felt that the majority of the game I had total control over it. I had unhorsed Glorfindel, killed Yenner. I had not lost any eagles, and I destroyed, I think, all of his supplies, and he got one of mine. But Glorfindel, he's Glorfindel, and it actually came all the way down to the single die roll at the end of the Elven Blade, and he happened to roll the 1-2, where he actually would have beat me on points between the banner points and everything. So it was, and for the most part, a situation where I felt totally in control, good to go, and then it just suddenly changed on a dime, and I was looking at, well, I think I just lost this game. I'd been hurling things at Glorfindel and knocking him down and keeping him over 3 inches away the whole game. So it was a very exciting ending, and that definitely did take me, I would say, a few days to kind of just settle in. Like, I can't believe that really happened, and that I lucked out in that case, right? The chance rock just went my way. So that was a real big nail biter there.
And what about you, Richard? You were playing against Sam Gallagher of Gondor Calls for Ale podcast fame. How was your round 6?
Yeah, he was a really lovely guy. We talked a few times throughout the tournament, and honestly, props to him for playing it to that score, because personally, I don't really love Helm in a competitive setting. I think he's maybe not quite worth his points cost, but yeah, he played it really well. I think going into it, I felt pretty good already, because I will say this about another maybe small downside with the current competitive scene right now, is that sometimes you just know you have a good matchup and it's going to be quite lopsided. And so going in, I was like, okay, this is my game to lose. And yeah, it kind of just panned out that way. He didn't make any huge mistakes, but it's just my army does well against his. He didn't really have any answers for Gwai here. And yeah, so it wasn't. That's why I said my day 2 was actually a little less nerve wracking just from the matchups. It wasn't the players. The players were great, but yeah, it just came down to the matchups.
Probably
I
feels a
agree.
lot
My date's
better
easier
when you.
than, yeah.
Sorry, go for it.
Same. My day 1 was harder, I think, than day 2, just because Venice Morgul is same. It's my game to lose with that, right? And at all 4 knots, it was all under control until Glorfindel went on the spree. So yeah,
And it probably feels a lot better to have escaped day 1, where you each had to face 2 Depths of Moria lists. So it probably was a nice vacation feeling to go into day 2 and not face any Balrogs.
I
Yeah,
secretly wanted to face another one just for the hilarity of saying that I fought 3 Balrogs across 6 games. Just,
I would. Well, as you can see by the rankings, I was sitting right beside Mitchell at the end of day 1, and I was like, "Please God, no, anything but." And then we were, you know, very happy game 6. It turned out that we were still, the tables next to each other, so we're both playing for podium, and we're like, okay. So the situation was kind of ideal for the Pacific Northwest.
Right on.
That's one thing I found a bit bad. You both mentioned it now. Day 1 at Adepticon was 4 games. Day 2 was just 2.
Yeah, I hate it. I wish it was 3 and 3.
Why is it not 3 and 3? Can someone explain that to me? Why is it not 3 and 3? That makes so much more sense. Why is it 4 and 2?
I'm not the expert, Julian. Feel free to correct me, but I think it's probably because it's such a large convention with like so many other games. There's thousands of people, and I think it starts on like Wednesday. So Sunday is kind of the wrap up day, and not only is the convention kind of like ending, but there's a lot of people probably flying out from all over the U.S. and Canada. So I think the ideal is try to end Sunday as soon as possible.
I think that's
fair.
exactly it because, I mean, they're trying to squeeze in 6 games, right? And people need to leave on Sunday. What else are you doing on Saturday if we just did the 3? I mean, you're there for the tournament, so might as well bust out the 4. So yeah, actually, like on Sunday, I had a train to catch because I trained there from my hometown. So I finished my game. I went up to the TO and I said, "Okay, it's done. I gotta go right now." So I just had to dip immediately to go catch the train, and I could not have done that if it had been 3 games that day because just the way the train schedule works, etc. All those things.
Oh, right. I remember you weren't there for the ceremony. I was trying to record it, and it was like third, second, and then first place is already gone.
I flew out of there on the Eagle I rode in on. Yeah, that did feel pretty douchey. I'm definitely not gonna do that next year. Just to be like, all right, I came one and I'm gone. But karma is a thing, and I had to run to the train station, and it was pouring rain. So I thought that 0.2, well, it was like 2 blocks or something away. But nah.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I will say, King, like if you ever want to come to Adepticon or anyone else, doing the 4 games on Saturday, just prepare for it. Like doing SBG for like hardcore thinking for like over 12 hours is a challenge.
Yeah, man. Like even getting through, just when I've went to the GTs, Warhammer World or Scouting of Cheshire, just 6 hours of playing and socializing and usually drinking. Gets taxing. It gets real taxing, and you just get to the end of you get to the 3rd game on day 1, and you just already your mind's mush. I'm just thinking at Adepticon, like I'd already like out of my mind by the end of game 3, and I'd have to go on to play game 4. That's some mental fortitude. That we're like, oh, I'm not going to be able to have a drink after round 1. I'm gonna have to just stick to the sugary stuff to keep the energy up. Unfortunately,
I was shocked by that because since I played the Eagles, I honestly, it's only 7 models, right? Like, there's not, I mean, there's a lot of options, but it's also, I have 7 dudes. Like, there's not much. So I really was not exhausted after any of them just because so much of this is just, it's easy going. I'm not moving the multiple guys, figuring out all of those things. And that was a big benefit that I did not think of or realize going into it.
notes down. Take 5 troll chieftains to Adepticon.
Listen, I played Door Trolls in the doubles event, and it was the same thing. So it was all about monsters for me this time.
In fact, 3 trolls with upgrades to Adepticon.
Yeah, only think about 3 models.
3 models
let the
and
opponent do all the thinking.
what is it? 50 points per special rule, 400 points base, 6 special rules.
That's awesome. We're getting close to our time. We've got about 15 minutes left on our clock.
Yeah.
It's getting a little bit late over there. Okay. We're gonna put all the blame on the king. That's right. It's
Go for it.
because we pre-planned for it. But so we've been through Adepticon, right? We it's now we're waiting for the match play guide. We're waiting for the Armies of Middle Earth book. What are what's some of your looking into the mirror of Galadriel, as it were? What do you kind of see the competitive scene in North America or globally kind of going with just the way that armies have been built in the books that we have so far? What do you kind of expect in the years to come?
Chris is gonna have a way better take on this than me. That's for sure.
Well, I guess I'm optimistic with the third book, but I think with the way that list building is right now, we're going to need support as much or hopefully more than we did last edition with like supplements and stuff because um, if there are going to be limited options in each particular list, it's more about choosing the right army and list. So rather than like constructing it a certain way, which I think, it's just different. It's not necessarily a worse thing. So I think as long as they keep coming out with new stuff to keep things fresh, I think it'll be good. But I think the scary thing is that if they do stagnate and don't release something for a good chunk of time, then it will get stale a lot faster than the last edition.
Do you think that by them dropping the words paired together and for the first time in history, balance update, do you think that that those two words having appeared in a Games Workshop Warhammer article about Middle Earth, do you think it's going to hold any weight? Do you think that there are going to be balance updates? And do you think that doing just tweaks and balance updates similar to, say, 40K or other games, will that be enough to shake things up if we don't get a lot of supplements?
I mean, I think a huge part of this too is the mittens though as well, right? Like, it's a good idea to have the balance they displays because we saw some oopsies last edition, right, with the Dragon Emperor and that domination there. That was pretty rough. So need to kind of see. I'm all about the balance updates, but also, I mean, we're talking about 6 new missions as well, right? And there's a lot of that's I think what was planned in this match play guide, and there's a lot of rules right now out there on a bunch of models that I believe kind of have no purpose at all as it stands. Things like your warriors kind of dominance to until the end of the turn. I don't think that matters. Like Faramir has that rule on something. But if we have 6 new missions that are wildly different that maybe, actually use the intelligence that can also really change how we build armies. Because now I have to think that there's 6 wacky missions in the pool. How would I handle that? So
I'm definitely on board. Like globally, the match play guide, with what is it, 24 scenarios that's supposed to be in it. And they said they were all new. I think it was all new, or 6 were all new. I definitely think that's going to lead to the big variation. Like you are going to see armies that kind of go, I'm going to need to account for some intelligence here because I need to do this, or like. Such as Nori. Nori's got the keepsakes ability, right? If he can pick up an item, he gets to pick it up and he must keep it. It's like, all right, okay, how do I work around that? I've got to keep stuff away from my own dude. Or if he gets him and then he's just going to run him off somewhere, like, how do I get to him? Because he's a D9 unit. I definitely think the match play guide is going to be the thing that shakes up things more than the third army book. As for the balance data slates, I reckon it's sticking to 2 a year. It's just going to be our FAQ and errata. Maybe we might see a couple of more changes per errata happening a bit more than just like the cherry picked 2 to 4 that happened last edition.
That's so rude. I can't believe they just did that, right? Just the minor, tiny facts. Especially because Scott Altman has like a 100-page fact document at all times. We get so few things.
He was in a lot of effort in that. I can respect it. I can't respect it. But What an update every quarter would be nice, but I'm happy with just 2, and I think it'll stick with just 2. Gotta think we aren't a flagship game for Games Workshop. I don't think. Yes, we make the money. Yes, it's a dedicated fan base, but it's nowhere near as popular as AOS or 40k, as far as I understand it.
Yeah, I think 2 a year is totally fine as well. But yeah, I hope they are more liberal to balance changes as well, and not just like FAQs.
Yeah, like there was only 2-point changes last edition: the Ballista and eventually Doctor Emperor, PhD in fixing these things. I already think there's a few heroes in the game who need a point change, like Wraith of the Hornberg. He needs to be a bit cheaper, in my opinion.
And things like even Piercing Cry, right? Like Piercing Cry with the Eagles.
Yeah.
Obviously not Adepticon, but what a ball busting ability though. That's a real deadly thing to fight against. And I think a failure such was implementing a 3-inch rule in it instead of 6, so we're already trying to factor it in. Be good if GW just took it on themselves.
Yeah, man. World of Blades as well. It's just I charge my general into your elf. Oh no, you just took lead of VPs off me because you rolled a 6. God damn it.
Do we think that the number of match play scenarios are going to be in total is going to be 24, because it's not going to be in addition to what's in the core rulebook. It's just going to be a total of 24 in the match play guide, since they do the copy paste thing. The number of ways that you can, so like say Adepticon is six rounds. I'm not a math person, but do any of you just kind of know off the top of your head how many different combinations of 6 scenarios you can have out of 24?
That's too high level for me.
Yeah, okay. They're not geniuses. Call me Jesus. They're not calculators. they're just very good at a game called Middle Earth Strategy Battle Game. And by very good, we mean like compared to us two at least.
Like, do we think that like with the amount of variation you can have in scenarios selected, and I'm figuring right, it's probably going to be 6 pools of 4 scenarios, or 4 pools of 6 scenarios, or something like that. It's got to be or 8 pools of 4. No, not 8 pools of 4. That's not even 24. But do we think that like the number of scenarios that we'll have and the different variations that we'll have, it would be enough to shake up the experience, because maybe Eagles won't be good at as many scenarios because they're not going to know. It's going to be like throwing a dart at the wall of what scenarios we're actually going to be playing, right? It's like that fog of war of scenarios that we're going to have to deal with, not the scenario fog of war, but like the mystery of what scenarios we'll actually be playing. Is that going to shake things up enough that it'll help mitigate that staleness, that potential that you were talking about, Richard?
Yeah, I think that would be huge. I mean, personally, by the end of the last edition, I was a veto enjoyer. I know some people might disagree with me, and I'm hoping if the 24 scenarios are so different in variety, maybe that could become more of a norm as well.
Yeah, veto was all the rage for the latter half of our previous edition, and I was, granted, I was a veto enjoyer for a good while, and then I stopped being a veto enjoyer, but that's like a story for another time. And I think there is some merit to it, and I think, and there's some cons to it, because maybe that might hurt the variety, if some scenarios are just going to end up kind of bubbling to the top, as it were.
Yeah, you're gonna have ones that were like Storm the Camp last edition. You have ones where like the community on a general whole is just kind of like, well, I don't want to play that one. Do you want to play that one? No, of course I don't want to play that one. So that's the first veto or the second veto. So you're gonna have some that'll be shunted out that way for sure, I reckon. If things go that way.
I have faith in them to do it though, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of this whole edition change, it did fix a bunch of things that we as the players kind of just didn't like, or were silly, like Piercing Strike, right? Everyone Piercing Struck, but you would never use the other one. And I feel that Storm the Camp is kind of in the same camp, if you may, about it, where no one likes that mission. I could see it going through big revisions, because otherwise, what's the point of it? So
Yeah,
my favorite
for
did
sure,
start
for sure.
Michigan implementing a half veto situation where we would roll a dice actually before each round, and on a 1, 2, 3, it would be essentially turned into a D3 of whatever mission that was in the pool, and on a 4, 5, 6 used veto. It kind of was like a mix of both worlds. People seem to really like that, and yeah, so just kind of to see how the match play does its divide to see what happens. I do like veto because I don't want to fight Sauron in Contest of Champions. My wild
Nah,
man beat him.
I myself am very anti-veto. I'm just like, just tell me what I'm playing, and I've got a deal of that. Simple as. To be fair, every event I've went to over here, I've not went to all of them. I'm not a frequent goer, but I've attended at least. Yeah, a minimum of 3 a year since started playing back in 2021. So yeah, and I never came across veto. That's at Warhammer World, and that's at events at clubs and stuff. But it might just be a thing that's not as common here in the UK, compared to in America, where, from as I understand it, you were saying before, it did become quite common in America towards the end of the edition.
We're just a superior country, more innovative.
We're just superior in every way. You know, the way you guys play Middle Earth, yeah, we're just better at it. Meh, 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 meh. Well, I reckon it's good to wrap it there. Thank you very much for your time, Richard and Julian.
Yeah,
Thanks for having us.
No worries at all. If anything, you've benefited us here. Just gave us something to talk about. Give us a reason to get on here and chinwag, talk with new people, and just talk Middle Earth. But in this case, with the theme around events and competitive play, especially for you Yanks.
It was real fun. You popped my podcast cherry. It was wonderful.
I just want to
didn't even use
protest.
lube.
I just want to protest that I'm not a Yank, but yes, I am appreciative of everything else you said.
Fair. Yeah.
What event will you be at next, Richard?
I guess probably just local events for the next little while. I am considering Articon this year and maybe Nova. So, yeah, that's still to be determined.
Okay, Julian, where can people expect to maybe see you at an event?
Well, every Michigan event, because I TO quite a few of them, but Nova is on my radar. I've never been, and it sounds fun, and it's not too far for me. I believe that's in DC.
Right on.
Yeah,
right
maybe
on.
there.
And King, what's the next event folks could maybe over there across the pond expect to see you at?
It's Scouring, as I mentioned before. Scouring of Cheshire is on the 26th and 27th of April. I've been looking forward to it. I've been going since 2021. It's changed hands now. Some other people run it, but it's at the same place, and it's probably still going to be the same all-comers fun, where it's like, oh, what? This is your first game ever? Yeah, brilliant. I'm glad you signed up to an event to play your first game ever of Middle Earth. Excellent. Or you get turn one, you get paired with like the one person, like a Kalman who's there with his Hero Hammer super list, and you're just like, oh, you're only guy, but you're about to destroy me.
Yeah. You'll be able to find me at Defense of the North in Maine. It takes place in South Portland. It's 16 tickets, but I'm strong arming them into giving us more seats because I want to run bigger and bigger events. And so that'll be the next event that I'm at, other than the slow growth that I run here. Thank you so much, everyone, for hopping on the call, and best of luck in your next games.
All right, take it easy, fellas.
Yeah.
Richard, one day I will fight you. I look forward to it.
That would be great.
Cheers,
Okay.
all.
See you, everyone.